Hello and welcome to Think Local First Radio here on Santa Cruz Voice. This is Susan O'Connor Frazier.
And this is Tam O'Connor Frazier. And boy, that music is loud.
And I had it down a little bit. So yeah, I'll have to talk to my engineer about that does my audio.
Actually, yeah, I did. I checked it out and it's minus 4 dB and it's still coming in hot.
Yeah. So in the studio with me, I have Amy Redfeather from Native Animal Rescue. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. Amy, tell me about your background a little bit before we talk about the organization.
So I went to a pretty cool school in Gainesville, Florida called the Santa Fe College Teaching Zoo, where you get hands-on experience working with wildlife and vets and learning how to work in the field of conservation and education as well. So I got hands-on training there, and I also did wildlife rehab while I was there, and tried to do a little bit everywhere I've lived, but landed at Native Animal Rescue about 10 years ago with quite a bit of experience in the field, so they were thankful to have me.
So what draws you to this work? I mean, why are you so interested in rescuing Native animals?
I've been passionate about it since I was a very young child. I grew up in South Florida, and we had the DDT thing going on. I was very young, so I got to see it, affect my favorite animals that I was growing up with. So I also learned a lot about Jane Goodall and her work growing up. I wanted to be just like her. So I started off in that field, and we actually got to hear her talk while I was in college. So
how special that was.
Very, very cool. And I've just sort of followed that path ever since.
So tell me about Native Animal Rescue here in the Santa Cruz County.
They've been here for, correct me if I'm wrong, 44 years.
Wow.
A very long time. And they were started because most of the wildlife that came into the county shelter was euthanized. So they wanted to find people that knew how to take care of it, rehab it, and get it back to the wild. And they've been doing that ever since. The family that started it is the family that's still, doing it. And I'm pretty much there to help them.
So, I mean, you guys, it seems like there's all those of us that live, especially in the foresty areas of San Lorenzo Valley and Scotts Valley, know that we're coexisting up there with the critters of the forest.
Correct. Yes.
So, how many types of animals, I saw on your website it's a pretty long list that you guys rescue, rehabilitate, and release.
So we handle pretty much all the wildlife that you would encounter here in Santa Cruz County, except for marine mammals and mountain lions. But of course, people are welcome to call us about that, and we'll get you hooked in with the right people. But anything else you'd encounter, from the smallest rodent to the largest mammal, you can bring to us, even if it's, a small mouse. We don't know what's endangered and what's not. So we're going to raise that mouse and give it the best chance that it has. We also, take in things like dusky-footed wood rats and things that are, some things are actually federally protected. So we want to raise those and get those back to the wild. Things like rattlesnakes, please call us. We'll get them out of your personal space if you need us to. We have people who are specially trained to do that. All reptiles, all amphibians. So, yeah, pretty much everything.
Will you come over and take care of the spiders in my house?
You'd actually be surprised how many insects we receive. So people are very concerned. We actually learned from a biologist how to repair monarch wings.
Oh, wow.
So you can, take pieces of old wings and put them onto new wings and get those back to the wild as well. So we don't mind doing that. That's good for us.
That's incredible. Yes. So, do you have vets on staff, or who's doing the actual, if a distressed animal needs care like that?
So we work very closely with the Exotic Pet Clinic of Santa Cruz with Dr. Stern and Dr. Dang. And so they help us with the things we need, like surgery, or if a bone needs to be, pinned or something like that. The vet tech stuff she leaves up to us. And she handles everything else. We also work very closely with our surrounding rehabilitation places like the San Francisco Zoo, Lindsay Wildlife as well. We recently had a raccoon go to the Randall Museum in San Francisco, so she got to go see the vets there. It was very exciting.
We had a little Chihuahua at one time, and who had neurological issues. That we had to drive all the way to Santa Rosa for the closest neurologist.
I'm aware of this. Yes, actually, yeah. A lot of people go there. Actually, we need one here.
Yes, I know. It was Santa Rosa or Davis, and it's like they're kind of the same distance, maybe, but this one's a little closer, or not closer, but more straight line than going up to Davis.
Oh, I also want to mention that we work very closely with ophthalmology for animals and Aptos. They're wonderful to us, so we really appreciate them.
Do you get animals in with eye issues?
Lots of times, yes, especially owls and animals like that with very large, orbital eyes. They need help a lot.
Wow. How about in the area? Do you guys do, as far as education? I mean, what kind of education are you guys doing?
So I'm sort of the educational, spearheader of the group. I accept a small amount of children every year to come work with us and, do the things that they're capable of doing. Obviously, I'm not going to let them handle rattlesnakes or, dangerous animals, but they can feed the squirrels. They can help me with the possums and things like that. And we also allow them to take those animals home and foster them at home with their family, which could be a really wonderful experience. But we'll have, children every day of the week, at least during the summer when we have a lot to do. During the winter, we don't have as much of that, but we do have a group of faithful young volunteers that come all winter long and do things like make bird boxes, and they've been volunteering with us since they were very young, 11 or 12, and now they're 17 and 18 and still coming back. So I think that's really, really cool, and we're really proud of them.
So how many of those do you think are going to go on and follow, instead of Jane Goodall, but follow Amy Redfeather's footsteps into?
A few are, and I just, I'm really, really proud of them. I can't say enough about how great it is to see them following in that way.
Now, you say you don't have as many during the winter as you do during the summer. Is that because of the school schedules of the kids, or is it because you have less need in the winter?
Correct. And there's nothing wrong with this, but a lot of kids just want to help with the babies, and we understand a lot of the other kids don't mind doing the deep cleaning and the projects, but most of the people that volunteer want to help with the baby birds and the baby squirrels. And once we run out of those, we don't mind at all. It's our season to kind of nap as well. So,
is there a birthing season for is it different for different animals? I mean, I know that we live in the trees and that we see a lot of the baby deer in the spring summer time frame. Is that the same for all animals, or does it vary?
We start seeing babies of all kinds right about now because of our weird sort of climate cycles right now. So it's extra warm. Mammals are starting to have their babies a lot earlier and a lot later. January, we actually start seeing baby hummingbirds. So they start nesting first. Then we start seeing songbirds of all varieties, and then the mammals start after that. And so we start seeing, baby skunks about May, and as you mentioned, fawns.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seems cyclical in terms of, for a time we had a ton of raccoons in the area, and then we didn't have any for a while, and we think there's a group now that I've seen in the pipe that's down below our property. But not as much as we did before, where they were up on our deck, and we went on vacation one time and they got through our dog door or cat door into the house. It's like, how'd you know we weren't here?
And that's a problem here, actually. It's always good to have those collars on that only your cat or dog can get. You'd be surprised how many people come home to raccoons in the house. However, the lack of raccoons is unfortunately due to a disease called distemper.
Oh, no.
And it's taken out a very, very large chunk of the population of not only raccoons, but other large carnivores. So we're starting to see it happen again now. It starts happening now, and it goes through the summer. And so you start to see, unfortunately, a lot of sick raccoons kind of walking around. You'll notice they look like they're kind of drunk. They might have cloudy eyes. They might be a little bit friendly, And those are unfortunately all signs that they could possibly have distemper.
Is this something that passes through their population? Is
Correct.
that?
Yep. And it could take out an entire population in an area very, very quickly.
It also seems like we haven't seen as many skunks as we've had.
Skunks can get it too, and we're seeing more of them right now actually with it than raccoons. So we got a few calls actually today with skunks that sounded like they may have had distemper. So it's very sad to see. So make sure all your pets are vaccinated. It is transmittable to dogs, so make sure your dogs have their distemper vaccine.
So you mentioned that you don't take care of mountain lions, and for those of us up in the mountains, we see them. Some of them are pretty big.
Yes.
Usually we just, are all kind of, amazed by them and don't encounter them, face to face, and they probably don't want to encounter us any more than we want to encounter them.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So what happens if, what happens when you get a call about a mountain lion? What do you do?
So, we've gotten lots of calls in the past about babies. And our first step, if somebody finds a baby, of course, is to let them know to give it space and to keep their pets inside. We're going to hope mom comes back for it because mom does stash them in places. And if mom does not come back for it in a period of time, we're going to have them call Fish and Wildlife, actually. And Fish and Wildlife is going to get a biologist to come out and assess the situation. And a few of the calls that I've received, the babies were too sick to be reunited with the mother. They had giardia and they were very emaciated, so they had to go to the Oakland Zoo to get rehabbed and kept as ambassadors. So they, the two that were found in Boulder Creek actually were sent to the Big Bear Alpine Zoo in Southern California, where you can actually go see them. They're doing really well there.
So how do you decide which zoo to send, animals to? Are you get on the phone when you've got someone and say, hey, or you got one and say, do you have room, space for this? Or
Correct. Yeah, we'll call the closest place first. The closest places that we know that are accepting animals or ambassadors or can see animals. And if we can't find somebody in our very close area, we'll go as far as we need to find somebody that we've driven many miles. If we get a baby raccoon at the end of the year that there's no other raccoons around, I've driven all the way to Morro Bay because they had a baby raccoon that it could be a sibling to. You can't raise any animals by themselves, so you have to have a buddy. So we've gone far and wide. We're not allowed to cross state lines, obviously, but we have, with permission of Fish and Wildlife, to get animals where they needed to be. We got a horned lizard. We needed to get back to Nevada. A snapping turtle. We had to get back to Texas. So, as far as we need to go.
Well, we're coming up on our first break, and we'll go to commercial here and be back after the break with Amy Redfeather from Native Animal Rescue. This is Susan O'Connor Frazier here on Santa Cruz Voice and our Think Local First programming. So don't go away. We will be back in 2 minutes.
The votes are in. Chef Ben here from Back Nine Grill and Bar at the Easy Off Pass Tempo exit. We are so proud of our food and our service and your votes. Back Nine has been voted Santa Cruz County's best burger and best happy hour in the good times. You've heard me talking about our house ground burgers. It's time for you to come and try one so you can taste the juicy difference. And what makes our happy hour the best? You have to come and experience it yourself. See you at the 9.
For ag and industrial real estate, call Chuck Allen. Chuck Allen is a lifelong resident of the Pajaro Valley, a friend of everybody, and has closed so many real estate transactions, the Wall Street Journal and Keller Williams both list him as one of the nation's top producers. So for ag and industrial real estate, call the top realtor, Chuck Allen, at chuckallenproperties.com. chuckallenproperties.com.
When you need help managing the legal affairs of your family, call on the Angel.
Hello, I am attorney Angel Hess, and I am ready to help. Whether you need a prenuptial agreement or divorce settlement, need child or spousal support, or are facing custody issues or visitation rights, I will help you. I have more than 7 years' experience as a family law attorney.
When you need help, call on the Angel. Attorney Angel L. Hess at santacruzlegal.net.
Listen and be heard. You can support one of America's first local news and talk streaming radio stations, SantaCruzVoice.com. Your support will help build the Voice's streaming infrastructure and maintain the programming of its 34 local broadcasters. Your support will help build a radio station that you will be truly proud of. Please go to SantaCruzVoice.com and click support. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to Think Local First Radio here on Santa Cruz Voice. And in the studio, we're learning so much from Amy Redfeather with Native Animal Rescue. And during the break, while you were listening to commercials, we were talking about really coexisting with animals and what you really need to do to effectively coexist. Because you move to Santa Cruz, you're moving to the wild, as you said. And that's not speaking about all the crazy people in town, but although they're kind of crazy too. So, one of the things when we had a lot of raccoons, one of the things we were experiencing was they were getting into our garbage, and trying to figure out what to do in order to keep them from getting into the garbage. And I think it gave birth to bungee cords or something like that.
Bungee cords can help. A lot of times there's clips for the trash cans that you can buy that clip it closed at night. You have to take those off during garbage night, which can be a problem. But those work. But a lot of people have found bungee cords to be really helpful. As soon as those raccoons realize that there's not going to be food that they can get, they'll usually leave. So a lot of times in these situations, somebody in the neighborhood might be feeding them or maybe not feeding them enough, and that's when they start really getting into garbage cans and things like that, looking for free food.
And though Tam was talking about that sometimes our neighbor gets upset because she's planted stuff in her little bit of garden. Most of our landscaping is very natural that we have, but that the deer come in and eat whatever she's planted. For me, I'm fine. We have whatever we have is growing naturally back there, so I figure it's kind of a part of the circle of life.
Theirs to eat.
Theirs to eat. So, what? I'm sure that's something that you hear is, what do I do to keep deer out of my garden?
Right. So I like to call this the art of exclusion, and people in the San Lorenzo Valley have become experts at this, at preventing wild animals from getting to not only their garden but their livestock. And the general rule is that if you have a good enough fence or a good enough barrier, that your animals in your garden will be safe. But finding that balance can be difficult. You want it aesthetically pleasing. You want it to be safe. You don't want things getting tangled in it, so the netting and the mesh can be difficult to navigate. But there are ways to do it, and a really good way to figure out how to do this is to get on your neighborhood websites, Facebook pages for your neighborhood groups, ask people what they're doing, what's working, what has worked. And we also work with some specialists who work with exclusion on houses, such as under your porch or under your shed, or places where animals could live. If you seal those places up very, very well, you'll prevent them from having a hiding place, and you won't have a problem. So I could say, from doing the hotline, that 98% of the problem is normally because places aren't sealed up. That animal has an opportunity to either eat or have shelter.
And they sometimes crawl under your house and have babies, right?
Correct, yes. And once they're under there with their babies, they can be very difficult to get out. But we also have people who specialize in that. And, we want to make sure we don't trap babies or live animals under your house. That can be very, very bad for your health, as well as obviously for the animal and the babies. So we want to get them out. We put little one-way doors on where they're getting in, and then we put little wildlife cameras on those to make sure that everyone has gotten out safely.
So one of the things that I find kind of fascinating is that in coming over 17, they've built an underpass for deer to cross. It's for deer to cross, under 17s, to keep them from going and getting hit, by cars. And it's like, I'm thinking, now if I were a mountain lion, I'd stand at the end of the tunnel or the end of the underpass and just wait for them. But they don't. Do you know about this? About these underpasses?
I heard about the overpass, but I had not heard about the underpass actually. But I do know that the overpass has started being used by not only mountain lion but deer and other things. So it's amazing how animals can adapt to something like that and how quickly, they can figure out how to use that as opposed to crossing a busy road.
That's really great because, even sometimes we're just driving down a street in Scotts Valley, from our house to get to the freeway. We have tons of squirrels, yes. Right? And I swear it's like they're playing a game of chicken. They wait till they see a car and then they go. So you've got to drive slow. On our, at least in our neighborhood and city streets, to make sure that you don't. One crossed the other day. It was like. And I just felt you kind of wait and hope that you're not going to hear the thud.
Right. You don't want to brake if somebody's behind you, obviously. That's kind of the rule. We don't want to run over a squirrel, but we don't want anybody to be unsafe.
Right.
So always just make sure that you're aware of that.
So what animals do you get the most calls about?
Most of the calls we receive are about opossums.
Opossums.
They get themselves into all kinds of situations, so I pulled them out of trash cans and car engines and recycling bins and pretty much anything that they could possibly get into, they will.
And is that specific to a specific area in Santa Cruz, or is it all over the county?
They are absolutely everywhere. And they're actually not, they were introduced in the early 1900s, so they haven't been here forever. But they're adapting very, very well, and I've personally just seen them getting larger and larger every year. So it's slightly terrifying.
One of the things, a number of years back, we were shooting a documentary series and we were following lifeguards, and we spent a lot of time on the wharf, and I was very distressed by the amount of pelicans that were getting, that were coming up with fishing hooks.
Oh, that's
and
a problem
fishing lines.
for us.
And
yes,
it was terrible to see.
We make an awareness plaque every year with the amount of hooks that we pull out of seabirds over one season. So me and the kids will make a little framed thing for them.
Yeah.
And every year we'll spend, several hours of the day pulling out hooks from birds. Some birds are tangled together. Mm-hmm. It's a serious problem.
Yeah, I always wondered why they couldn't figure out a better way to kind of deal with that. But I guess you can if you're going to let people fish off the wharf. You just have to deal with it. And it just
correct. Yeah, and there are ways that you can, unhook the bird safely. Unfortunately, you do have to sacrifice your hook. You want to pull the hook out of the bird the same way you would pull the hook out of yourself. You want to cut the tip and back it out as opposed to ripping the flesh. And that could actually, if people are able to call us right away, we'll come in and help immediately. Try to save their hook if we can, obviously.
Yeah.
And do the best that we can for the bird. But
what I was concerned about, and what I kept thinking was, this is a marine mammal sanctuary, right? And so why are we allowing, but I know I'm going to tick off a lot of fishermen.
It's a little confusing. That came up with the sea otter that was attacking surfboards as well.
Oh,
it's
right,
supposed to be the otter's sanctuary, not the surfers. But we want to all coexist here, so it's a balance.
It's a balance.
So you said you don't do marine mammals. So what happens when someone calls and there's turtles on the beach, or a dolphin or a whale or something like that that's come up on the beach? What do you do?
So if you find a marine mammal in Santa Cruz County, you can call the Marine Mammal Center at 415-289-SEAL. That's 7325. So it's 415-289-SEAL. And they'll help you immediately.
Are they up in the Sausalito area?
That's just their hotline. They have people everywhere that can come and help. Whatever the situation is. So sometimes, unfortunately, there's not very much we can do. There's been a lot of situations with sea lions at the wharf. They just couldn't catch, but they were grievously injured. So, we do sort of become a grief counselor a lot of times for people when not much can be done.
I remember years ago we were down in Monterey. Remember, there was like almost an infestation of sea lions.
Yeah, the seals they basically took over the harbor.
Yeah.
That
everywhere.
seems to happen every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy because they were on everybody's boats and on the, on whatever, the docks.
I mean, they were
and
just you couldn't. Yeah, they took over. And they were mean.
They were mean. They were like,
And they make a spectacle of themselves.
They do.
they do. So when somebody encounters a wounded, injured animal of some kind, what should they do? Should they try to help first, or should they call you immediately? I mean, or I'm sure it may depend on what kind of animal it is.
Correct. So in the case of, a baby or something that's not grievously wounded, you definitely want to call us to figure out what to do. Some babies we want to leave completely alone, and some we want to rescue. So call us about those. But if something has an obvious wound and you can safely pick it up and bring it to us, please do so right away. Timeliness is really helpful when it comes to grievous wounds, so the sooner that we can help that animal, the better. If it's not wounded and you're just not sure, call us. We have our hotline on every single day. Animals don't understand holidays or weekends, so we take that into consideration, and you can call us anytime about anything. That's fine.
And how long does it typically take for you to come out if you're going to respond physically to a
Usually we have a rescuer within 15 minutes. So we try to have rescuers all the way South County, all the way North County, and everywhere in between so that we can get somebody out there as fast as possible. And we have a lot of people that are really good at what they do, so they'll make sure to get that animal help.
Now, you had mentioned that you've worked at other rescue organizations in the past. Is there a nationwide network of these? It seems like back in the 90s or something, we did a fundraising video for a rescue organization in San Jose. So, and I don't know if they're still there. It was quite a long time ago, but tell me about the nationwide look at animal rescue.
So that's a really good question that I don't know the answer to. I know we have one for California, and we have a symposium every year. We all get together. This year it was at Asilomar, and it was wonderful. We have lots of guest speakers come, and we try to learn, everything we can. But as far as nationwide, I'm actually not sure. I'm sure that there is one, but I'm not certain what it is.
But there's organizations like yours probably throughout the country.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is it primarily in areas like this where it's less urban and has so much more, of the natural, like the redwoods that we have here and the beach and stuff, or, or do you have the same thing in urban areas?
I'm finding that we're having the same thing everywhere, and luckily there's rehabs absolutely everywhere now. So the places where they don't have them, they're popping up, or they have something online that you can look at to find someone in the area that knows what they're doing with that animal. So we're very lucky. In the old days, it was a lot different. It was actually, quite illegal to rehab animals. So it's become a lot easier through state laws and federal laws to rehab animals, and that has helped a lot of places open up their doors to being able to do it.
Why would it be illegal? Why was it illegal?
That's a good question. A lot of places consider nature taking its course as the best course of action. Especially in a place like Oregon, you're going to have a really hard time finding anywhere that can rehab. Anything that you find is likely going to have to be euthanized by Fish and Wildlife. But what they don't take into consideration is that a lot of the problems that the animals encounter are human-caused. Most of what we receive at Native Animal Rescue is human-caused or could have been prevented, if humans had not caused the problem. And so hopefully soon, places like that will start allowing more people to rehab. But
well, I mean, the first part of causing the problem is that we're moving into their ecosystems,
exactly,
and because we, want to enjoy the forest just like they do, and then it's because you see that in certain areas of the country where bears are, coming out of the forest and into the neighborhoods that have been, built right next to the forest, and
yes.
So it's just I think it almost is a responsibility for those of us that choose to live in these kinds of environments to realize we have, these neighbors that we're living with.
Yeah, we need to figure out a way to make it work all together.
And help if we can, when we can.
So I saw in the picture that you shared, which I had seen online, was you had an ambassador python. Tell me about.
Correct. So this is a fun story. Sometimes we get calls from people who find snakes that actually don't belong in Santa Cruz. They're from somewhere else. We've had several calls from people who found Kenyan sand boas, ball pythons, and things like that. We got an Ackies monitor one time, which is from Australia. But Marigold was very special. He's quite striking looking, as you saw in the picture. He's sort of purple and olive colored. And the people who called were quite frightened. He's very large. And they said, you definitely need to come get this snake out of the garden for us. So we sent our best young rescuer, and he was more than thrilled to find out it was actually a quite exotic ball python. And we did appeal to find an owner for Marigold to see if somebody may have lost him or misplaced him, or maybe he got out of his enclosure. But no one came forward for a year. So we decided to keep Marigold on as an ambassador, as a way to sort of help people learn the difference between native snakes and non-native snakes, and why non-native snakes don't belong in the environment. He was found on a night that it got down to 35 degrees, so we don't think he would have survived.
Yet snakes do better than some creatures in colder weather, correct?
Right, but they're from Africa, so they're not used to it at all.
Right.
So he belongs in a heated tank, and without a heated tank, they would. So he's actually the second of two that we have as ambassadors. We also have a pastel ball python named Polly, who was found in a sandbox at a Montessori preschool. So as a very, very tiny baby, she was 10 inches long, and they brought her right to us and said, we didn't know what to do, and we kept her as well. We, again, appealed to owners, if anybody had lost her, but nobody had. So
What are they like?
Oh, they're very, very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kids love holding her, and they could hold, both of them for hours. We actually brought both of them to the Natural History Museum recently for the Halloween night, and so they had a good 4-hour stretch of being held and handled, and they just love it. I'm sure of it. They don't mind it
How
at
do
all.
you know they love it?
Marigold especially, he has a way. You'll have to stop by and come visit sometime, and I think you'll see what everybody else has seen, is that he's very social and friendly, so... they actually have a type of python called a children's python because they're such great pets for kids. So they really will just sit there and wrap around your hand.
Our granddaughter's kind of into reptiles.
She loves reptiles, which I'm just,
She could stop by any time.
She would love that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm snakes, and I'm fine with snakes. Again, it goes back to the spiders.
Yeah, you don't like spiders, and I'm not a big fan of snakes. But one time I had a friend that had snakes, had a pet snake, and then once I got to meet the snake and just get to know it was a beautiful animal.
Yeah.
And just it's like a snake has a personality.
All around nice guy.
Yeah. They had a personality, which I didn't expect. So I was surprised by that.
Now, it's interesting. We went to that event in, was it Golden Gate Park, where they had, somebody was there with some snakes and stuff, and the kids were just going crazy over them. So we're coming up on our second break here. This is Susan O'Connor Fraser here on Think Local First on Santa Cruz Voice. And we will be back after some messages from our sponsors. So stay tuned. Don't go away.
Come and meet the best businesses and job opportunities in Santa Cruz County. The Pajaro Valley Chamber of Commerce and Agriculture's Business Expo and Job Fair is Thursday, April 25th from 4 until 7 at the Santa Cruz County Fairgrounds. This is an event full of exciting activities for all. Taste samples from fabulous restaurants, win prizes, and get to know local businesses. Thursday, April 25th from 4 until 7 at the Santa Cruz County Fairgrounds. Admission is free and everyone is welcome.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. So at Treehouse, we use it to build community. Hello, I'm Jenna from Treehouse Dispensary in Soquel. In addition to the finest cannabis products, Treehouse dispenses information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Though we aren't medical professionals, we do know how cannabis science can help you. Listen to Xavier.
Thank you, Jenna. For those suffering joint pain, Treehouse suggests trying a CBD THC topical like the Balance Salve from local Santa Cruz company, Jade Nectar. Simply apply the salve where you feel the pain, then enjoy the relief.
To learn how to use cannabis for the best effect, just ask us, your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive in Soquel. You must be 21, but no appointment is necessary, and the information is free. And for those who already know what they want, Treehouse has an online ordering option at ourtreehouse.io and drive-through pickup. We look forward to welcoming you to our Treehouse community.
Hello, I'm Carolyn. 25 years ago, my husband Rudy and I opened Charlie Hong Kong with the commitment to serve healthy food grown in healthy soil. Today, the healthy food we serve comes from the sacred land in Pajaro Valley where Dick Peugeot and his Lakeside Organics grow the soil, and the soil grows the healthy plant that we serve to you. When you eat at Charlie Hong Kong, you eat healthy food, and it's delicious. Charlie Hong Kong, Santa Cruz.
Hello and welcome back. This is Susan O'Connor Fraser here with my co-host, Tam O'Connor Fraser. Say hi, Tam.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes. And this is Think Local First Radio, and Thinking Local, live in a very interesting and diverse ecosystem here. A couple of them probably in Santa Cruz County, and that's why I'm excited that I have Amy Redfeather here from Native Animal Rescue. And I think one of the things, your website is excellent. It has so much great information about, what to do, breaks it down by, species and, so if you find an animal or, you want to know what to do about some of the animals that are that plague your neighborhood, that you think plague your neighborhood, it's a lot of helpful information there. So good job on that front.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
You had mentioned baby season, and not of humans, but of animals. So what's going on with baby season that we're getting into?
So right around the corner, baby birds start appearing in nests, and a lot of people, would like to know what they can do to help prevent accidents to these baby birds. So one of the most important things you can do is to stop pruning right about now. Even though hummingbirds have already started nesting, you can take a really good peek in your bushes or trees to make sure there aren't any of those. And then we want to cease pruning all the way until October if you want to prevent accidents from happening. It can be very difficult to re-nest babies if the entire tree has been removed. We can sometimes put them back, in the cases where the tree has remained partially, but that could be very difficult. So we want to just leave them in their nest. It won't take them long to get out of there, and then you can continue with what you're doing. And then a lot of times what can be very confusing for people is that these baby birds actually start hopping out of their nest and onto the ground on purpose. So after nesting season is over, and even as soon as March and April, you may start seeing baby birds on the literal ground. So that can be very distressing. It doesn't seem natural, but if you try to put that baby bird back into its nest, it will hop out again and onto the ground because that's the cycle that they have to go through to learn how to forage and fly. So the mothers and fathers will continue to help take care of them while they're on the ground, as long as we give them lots of space. If the baby looks like it's grievously wounded or covered with ants or something's just about to eat it, you can pick that baby up and call us. But other than that, we want to leave as many babies on the ground this year as possible. Shortly after that, we start seeing squirrels, and what we've learned that works very well for baby squirrels that have fallen out of a nest is to play some very special baby squirrel sounds. We reunited over 30 last year with their mothers. The mothers will come and pick them up right away and take them back to a new nest. So that's also a really good tip for spring coming.
This is also a time I know that when we started doing drone photography, that you would don't do drone photography in this birthing season.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we appreciate that
because we do all the commercials for the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, and they always want beautiful aerial photography. And there's certain times a year that the seagulls are not having it. So tell me what happens, Tam, when you're up there trying to fly during.
Well, the seagulls attack the drone.
Yeah.
I mean, and they come from afar. We had a situation where we were over the Dipper, and a couple came from the wharf at us. And,
Interesting.
And then one on another occasion, one actually defecated on the floor and just dropped the bomb. Just wiped out the drone, man. It was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they kind of feel like they're being protective,
exactly.
of the nests, and you see so many of them this time. Well, not around the springtime, around the boardwalk and the wharf, and they're, they're pests in some ways, but they're, that's where they're nesting, is wherever they can find a nest up there.
Yes, the gulls are definitely a point of contention in Santa Cruz. Some people love them, some people hate them, but I just tell everybody, at the end of the day that we do live in a marine sanctuary, and it is their home. So there's lots of ways to live with gulls too, and you can always call us about that, but a lot of what we start seeing at this time of year is them nesting along 41st Avenue. And we allow them to do this. They do this every year, and it can be very confusing for people, but they do tend to do very well nesting along that, as long as we just don't disturb them. So they take off from those roofs and they go back to the ocean, and hopefully we'll have less incidents this year if everybody just gives them a little bit of space. Those birds also jump off of their nest and onto the ground on occasion. And as long as it's in a parking lot and people can hopefully slow down for that baby, we leave them there as well, which can be very confusing for people to understand.
They can be really aggressive too. I remember
parents, yes.
Yes, I remember sitting on the beach for like a movies on the beach night and had my bacon burger there and French fries, and man, the gull spotted the burger and came and attacked it and wanted to fly away, and it was a little too heavy still.
I think it's a lot less popular these days to feed them, so I think we're seeing a lot less of that, thankfully. I think a lot of people have caught on to the fact that once we start, it's going to be really hard to stop. So nobody wants to get attacked by a seagull.
No. I was just stunned that it came. I mean, we were all there. It wasn't like I had left the food on a table or something. I was right there and came and tried to take my cheeseburger.
You don't want to take her cheeseburger.
Don't touch my food. So in terms of, let's talk about ways that, community members or listeners can help native animal rescue.
So one of the simplest ways that can be the most effective is those little bag tokens at the health food store, those little nickel tokens that you put into the box slot, and oftentimes we're on the box at the New Leaf Market. Staff of Life as well has one. So if you're at those stores and you see us on the ballot, vote for us and put us in the box, and we'd really appreciate that. That helps us each and every single month. We also always appreciate having people who want to rescue animals. So if you're one of those people who wouldn't mind going out into the community and either rescuing an animal that needs help or picking up an animal that's already been contained, we're always looking for people to do that. And like I said, we cover everywhere from very, very South County to very north and all in between. So the more rescuers, the better. Of course, we accept donations. We're a nonprofit, and we will be glad to get you receipts and anything you need in that case. We have several buttons on our website if you'd like to donate there, and we're there every single day if you'd like to stop by and chat.
Now, you're when you talk about volunteer rescuers, what kind of training? Because, I mean, that sounds like, that sounds pretty cool that I would, how I feel about animals in my environment. I might want to do that. How do I get trained, or what do I need to know?
Most of it's pretty easy. So especially during baby season, it's just a very, very tiny baby. You can either pick it up with a very small towel and place it into a box, or it's going to already be in a box. If you want training on larger animals like pelicans or larger mammals, we'll be more than happy to provide that. We have a wonderful rescuer with us named Kevin Foster, he's also a falconer. So he has live birds that he helps people to learn how to, work with so that they can be better adept at rescuing raptors in the wild. So owls and hawks and things like that, we want to be very careful with, obviously. We don't want to send anybody after those that doesn't know what they're doing. We want to be well trained for that with a pair of very, very heavy gloves. And anything else that you would need help with, we'd be more than happy to send somebody along to help you learn how to rescue it in the field.
Now, a few years back, we got a barn owl box and put it on a shed in our on our property, and it hasn't been inhabited yet. So, talk about that program and what you guys do surrounded the barn owl boxes.
So I'm not actually privy to a lot of that. Okay. If you wanted to call us or email us, I could have the person who has spearheaded that project. What I've noticed personally is that we have a sort of a lack of barn owls here in Santa Cruz County because we have a ton of great horned owls, and they tend to drive the barn owls out of the territory. So we're not seeing as many coming into the center. We're not seeing as many in the wild. I'm personally not hearing as many, but during summer, that may change and the balance may shift. But I've seen over the last several years that we've gotten more and more great horned owls and less barn owls, and that could just be the balance of nature. But great horned owls in no way can inhabit the barn owl boxes. You're more likely to see maybe small owls or songbirds trying to inhabit those if the barn owls do not.
What about bats? Do you?
I was just thinking of that because we have bats in our neighborhood. How do you guys deal with bats?
So we have a wonderful biologist on staff named Monique Lee who helps with all of our bats. She receives them, she treats them, she rehabs them, and she releases them back to the wild. In the cases, where one might be stuck on a glue trap or something like that, I'm pretty good with that. So I'll get it off the glue trap first, make sure he's nice and clean, and then send it off to Monique. But we'll receive them, and we'll do our very, very best for every species of bat. We really love our bats here in Santa Cruz County. So.
How many species of bats do we have?
I think we have 9.
9, really?
Wow. They were living in one of our fireplaces at one point in time.
It wasn't in the fireplace itself. It was kind of, I think, in kind of like an enclave of the fireplace or something near the.
You can call us about that, too.
Yeah. They've seemed to have left the house, but they're still in the neighborhood. So they've moved to somewhere else for their house.
Bat boxes can be really cool, and they can often be convinced to move into those if you have them on your property. So call us anytime about that, too.
Is it a bat box and a barn owl box or 2 different kinds of boxes?
2 different kinds of boxes, yes.
Okay.
Different circumstances and places where you put them and things like that. So.
I can't move into that box. That's a barn owl box, and I'm a bat. That's funny.
Bat box.
A bat box.
Bat box.
Yeah. We've been watching Gotham and too much Batman coming up.
Too much Batman.
So one of the things you'll sometimes see on different like the next door and stuff is people are posting about the fact that people have put out either traps or poison or something like that, and they oftentimes will get flamed or whatever by other people saying don't do that. What's the philosophy about either trying to trap a rodent or trap, or to kill, animals that are in your neighborhood?
Right. So it's very interesting to see how this, school of thought has evolved over my years as a wildlife rehabilitationist. But what we found out at the end of the day, once again, is that the art of exclusion is the only solution to rodents. You can trap as many as you'd like, but if you do not seal up the holes where they're getting in, you're going to have an infinite amount of rodents. What we've also seen in populations of wildlife is that if you kill off a lot of the species, they'll reproduce double time. They'll have more per litter, they'll reproduce sooner and later. So that doesn't work either. So the only real way to keep things out from where you want them is to make sure that any hole where they can get in is sealed, and that you check where they're possibly getting in once every few months. Vector Control actually has a program where they'll come out and help you figure out where those rodents are getting into your house so that you don't have that problem. You can trap 100, you're going to have 100 more. People ask about coyotes all the time in their neighborhood. They say, can't we trap them and go relocate them somewhere? And honestly, that never, ever works. You'll just have more coyotes moving in immediately. And the coyotes you've sent off to live in the woods, likely won't survive in that territory, which is very sad.
Yeah, we've seen some coyotes in the neighborhood, but not a lot. Sometimes you'll be driving down at night and something will come into your headlight and you're trying to figure out what was that, and I think we had a coyote in front of us one time because it moved more like a dog than a cat, more like a coyote than a mountain lion, and how it galloped or whatever they call it. It ran from us.
And we'll help with those too. We don't mind helping with coyotes. There's unfortunately not very much we can do for them if they're mobile. They're very smart, very fast. Even if they have an injured leg or something like that, we absolutely cannot catch them. But if you found a baby pup or an adult that definitely needs help, you can call us.
Well, this has been really informative. I really appreciate you coming in. Like I said, I love my job anyway because I learn so much, but this has been a overly informative and tripping over my words over here.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
And if you want to find out more about the Native Animal Rescue, you can go to nativeanimalrescue.org online and really encourage support of this organization. Donate, look at it as part of living in this ecosystem as we want them to. We need to coexist, and Native Animal Rescue is doing such a wonderful job in making that happen for all of us humans here in Santa Cruz County. So thanks for joining us, Amy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Again, it's nativeanimalrescue.org. Go there. You'll find all the information on who to call for what and what to do about the animals that you're either enjoying, which is I enjoy our wildlife every day, that I feel so blessed, or that are driving you nuts. Amy's team will make sure that gets taken care of. So
what's happening next week?
Next week, on the 1 o'clock hour, I'm still working on it. I've got a couple of possibilities, and we talked that we're going to have Charlie Hong Kong, not Charlie himself, but Carolyn Rudolph will be joining us during our 12 o'clock hour. And coming up shortly is Community Matters. I'm not sure who Becky and Jeff's guest stars are today, and then later today you can listen to the Cannabis Connection and Christopher Carr. He has a very interesting guest on today. So this is Susan O'Connor Fraser again with Think Local First Radio here on Santa Cruz Voice, and really appreciate you joining us, and stay tuned. Becky and Jeff will be here after the news.